us for what is day 3 of Charity Fraud Awareness Week and our session all about AI. Just before we start, a bit of housekeeping is that this is coming out as a recording afterwards. It'll probably come out tomorrow, but we will let you know when that comes out. I'm not going to introduce the speakers because they can do it far better than I can, but I'll introduce myself first. I'm Hope Safety. I am chairing the session, even though I massively lack any AI understanding, but I am the lead for all things to do with charities at Fraud Advisory Panel, and we have some absolutely amazing speakers today. So I'm going to start with Tim, just because you're the first one on my screen. So Tim, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi Hope, thanks ever so much, and it's nice to see you all here on the call today. I'm Tim Mitchell. I'm content lead at Get Safe Online, which is an online safety advisory resource. And as you can imagine, we are getting more and more immersed in AI every day. I hope you enjoy the session.
Amazing, thank you, Tim. And Rob, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Hope. Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Rob Shapland. I run a cybersecurity consultancy called Psionic. I am an ethical hacker, so I get hired to hack into companies using the same tools and techniques as the real criminals do. I've been doing that for the last 17 years. My specialty is on social engineering, that is targeting the people that work at the organisation and tricking them into opening up phishing attacks, responding to voice calls, or my specialist niche within what is already quite niche is physically dressing up and breaking into buildings. So I have a big box full of dress-up gear in the cupboard behind me that I'll use to sneak into an office dressed as a fake employee or a cleaner. I've been delivered inside a very large Amazon box before into an office and broke and cut out and walked off into the office and stole laptops and things. Absolutely love doing it. So I'm going to bring a little bit of that experience into the AI-based stuff that we're going to talk about today. And then when I'm not doing that, I do a lot of training for companies to make cybersecurity training a bit more interesting, and then some media work for BBC ITV and a few others as well.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for joining us today. We can't really run fraud anything at the moment without including AI in some way, shape or form. This week, we've already covered it once at the London conference. We had a session dedicated to AI, much like this one, friend or foe, hero or villain, something in between. We are releasing a guide around AI straight after this, written by Ollie Buckley from Loughborough Uni. But it's such a large topic that before we get into this, I wanted to note that it's a topic that we couldn't cover off in an hour. So we're going to be looking really in 2 areas, and my speakers will definitely jump in and show you as much as they can. But really, we're going to be looking at generative AI and AI and its use in fraud. So that's the 2 things. Before this session, I took inspiration from our session at the London conference and Googled what I didn't even Google it. I asked AI what generative AI was, and it says it's a type of artificial intelligence that creates new content using patterns learned from data. Instead of just analyzing or recognizing information, it generates something new, such as text, images, music, video, code, or even conversation. And I asked ChatGPT, which is obviously generative AI. We know that you guys as charities are using AI. And the point of today is to kind of give you a nice overview of what it is, how you can protect yourself, and at least give you some of the tools that you can take away and use as you use AI, because we know that it's going to be something that you use more and more, but also that will be used in fraud. And with that, Rob, would you be able to take us through a bit around AI, how it's used in fraud, and what that might look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use AI quite regularly as part of my social engineering attacks, not so much on the physical side, obviously, but more on the phishing and phone call side. And I wanted to give you an example of a company that I broke into recently where I used AI as part of it. So I was tasked by a company to gain access to the Microsoft account of one of their senior leaders. I could choose which one I wanted to go for. The reason I do that is because the Microsoft account is a ticket into a company's network, really, because most people log into their email with their Microsoft ID, but also their SharePoint, and many of their other systems use what's called single sign-on to authenticate them to all sorts of other systems. So if you can get someone's username and password for their Microsoft account, you pretty much have the keys to the kingdom to do everything as them. So I was tasked with getting access to one of their senior leaders' Microsoft accounts. Now, there's three things you need generally if you're going to try and log in as someone else trying to steal their identity. First part is their email address, obviously. Second part is the password. That's supposed to be a bit more secret than the email address, and I'll come to how to get that in a minute. And the third part is to get round their multi-factor authentication. Now, hopefully everyone, when they log into their email when they're outside of the office, it will prompt them when they first log in for their multi-factor token, that secondary code, whether that's texted through to your mobile or whether it's an app that has a rotating code on your mobile phone. And periodically it should prompt you to enter that alongside your password. Now, that can be the hardest bit to get hold of because that's the bit that's supposed to protect you if your password is compromised in some form. So those are the three elements that I need: email address, password, multi-factor authentication. So let's start with the email address. Fairly easy. Lots of companies list senior employees' email addresses on their website or other places on Google. If not, I use LinkedIn instead. So I search for the company name, click on the list of employees. LinkedIn doesn't tell me your email address directly, but I've got your name and I've got where you work. It's not going to take a genius to work out what your work email address is going to be from those two bits of information. So that's the first part. Second part, the password. Now, that's supposed to be secret, but for many people, they've had their password compromised at some point in the past. So there is a huge database out there of every breached or hacked credential, which is a username and password, available. So there's around 15 billion or so combinations of usernames and passwords that have been hacked at some point. What that means is a website that you've registered to with your personal or your work email address has subsequently been breached. The database containing the usernames and passwords has been extracted by the criminal, and they collate it into a big list. So with there being 15 billion of these in there, most people are in this list. And if you know where to look, you can search through this list and you can see people's passwords. Now, most of the time, this is associated with their personal email addresses. But for some people, they might use their work email address to register for personal things as well. So that was the kind of thing I was looking for. So from LinkedIn, I noted down the name of all the senior people that worked at this organization. I searched for them in this breach database. And one of their senior leaders had been working at the company for most of his life. He didn't really have a personal email address from what I could see. He just used his work email address for everything. And I searched in the breach database and he was in there 8 separate times and his password had been breached 8 separate times. And in all cases, his password was based around the word password. So not ideal security and certainly not something I'd advise. A lot of them were password 34 he seemed to use as his main password. So what I imagine happened is he started with password 1 at some point, and over the years he'd been asked to change his password every few months, and he'd got all the way up to 34 and then started using that on some personal things. So I thought, okay, there's a very good chance I can log in as him with password 34 or something close to that. So if I try a few different numbers, maybe I'll get in before it locks the account out. So that's hopefully the second part. But the third part is to get around the multi-factor authentication. And that's the difficult bit. And that's where the AI and the social engineering part is going to come in, because I am going to pretend to be one of their IT service desk staff, phone up this senior leader and pretend there's some maintenance happening with his account and that we need him to authenticate us through the secondary step. Now, before I even get to that stage, I'd like to know whether they even have multi-factor authentication. And if they do, what kind they have. And I want to do that without logging in, because it's the moment I log in with his username and password, if it works, it's going to trigger something to happen on his phone. And I want to be ready for that before I do it. So in order to determine what they've got, I'm going to go back to LinkedIn. This time, I'm looking specifically for the IT staff that work at this company. So within LinkedIn, narrow down to IT staff, click into their profiles. Now, for some people on LinkedIn, they list just their experience. I worked here 3 years, here 4 years, here 5 years, whatever. But for other people, they might put a little bit of information about what they did within those roles. So what I'm looking for within those bullet points is there any information on systems that they've developed or implemented at this company? And one of their IT staff had listed every single project he'd worked on since he started the company a couple of years ago. And one of those was implemented Microsoft Authenticator MFA. So I thought, okay, great. I know exactly what they're using. I know how that system works. So what's going to happen is when I log in, it's going to bring up a prompt on their phone to type in a number. And that's going to appear on my screen, that number. So I need to convince them to type in that number on their authenticator, and that's going to let me in. And that's where the social engineering comes in. But this is also where I wanted to use the AI, because I thought it's going to have a much higher success rate if I'm going to pretend to be one of their IT staff over the phone if I can sound exactly like one of their IT staff members as well, using an AI voice cloning tool. Now, in order to clone someone's voice and create a replica that sounds exactly like them, we need 10 seconds is the minimum, but it doesn't really work well with 10 seconds. You need about 3 to 4 minutes of high quality audio to pretend to be someone. That was kind of the sweet spot where it starts to work really, really well. So I took the names of all their IT staff. Again, I used LinkedIn to do that, and searched for them on YouTube. And I found one of their IT staff members had been at a conference. He'd done a full hours-long presentation. It was all on YouTube, high quality audio and video. So brilliant. So now I've got an hour sample. I don't need an hour, but I can feed more data into the tool and it'll create an even better replica than it could have done before. So now I extracted from YouTube an MP3 file, which is relatively easy to do, and uploaded that to the voice cloning tool that I use. That within a couple of minutes creates your replica. And now you can do what you want with that replica voice. So there's two main paths you can go down. So you can use what's called text to speech. So I can literally type out what I want the voice to say and it will read it out in that person's voice. So if I know exactly how the conversation is going to go, I can type out a few different possible paths the conversation might go down and then have those ready and just play them over kind of speakerphone to someone else. The other option is you can hook it up to ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever AI tool you want to use. Give it a prompt, just like you would in ChatGPT normally. So I would say something like, you are an IT service desk staff member. You are doing some maintenance on someone's account. As part of this, you need to get them to type in the following number into their authenticator, and I'll give it the number. And then it will play the role of the IT service person in that person's voice, and it will try and convince the person to actually do the thing you're asking them to do. So type in the number. So if you're not sure how the conversation is going to go, you can let the AI tool handle that instead. So in this case, I started off with text to speech, but had the ChatGPT mode loaded up, ready to go, just in case. So now I've got all the elements in place that I need, hopefully, to hack into this account. So I've got the email address. I've hopefully got the password, though I haven't tested it yet. And I've got a potential way around the multi-factor authentication. The senior leader's phone number was thankfully on the internet, so I knew his mobile number already. So now I'm ready to execute the attack. So logged in, username, password, didn't work. Incorrect username, password, like great, okay, so first steps failed already. Next, I'm going to try password 35. That worked. Okay, so I'm logged in as him, as password 35. But it prompts that multi-factor authentication prompt to come up. So I phoned him up using the number that I'd got from Google, put it on speakerphone, and then had the voice cloning tool available on to read it out loud on my speakers. And I played it and it said, hi, Steve, it's Rob here from the IT service desk. We're just doing some maintenance on your account. You might have noticed a prompt pop up on your phone from Microsoft Authenticator. Nothing to worry about. That's just us logging as you to do some maintenance. In order to get that working, we just need to type in the number 23 for us. Is that all right? And he said, oh yeah, hi Rob, no problem at all. Yeah, I've had some problems with my laptop at the moment as well, actually. So if you could have a quick look, that would be great. I'll do that for you now. So completely fell for it, hook, line and sinker, typed in the number. And now I'm logged in. So on my screen, I'm logged into his email account. I can access their SharePoints, all of their files on there as well. And they did use Microsoft as single sign-on for a number of different systems that I now have access to. Now, that senior leader happened to be their finance director. So I now had access to the finance director's email account. Now, that makes fraud attacks a lot easier because now I can send email as that person with their actual email address, so I can authorize transactions, approve new ones, etc. I can also look through existing email chains that I have and reply to those emails, making it much more likely that that will work. So I've immediately got a very, very powerful way of doing fraud attacks from within that email account. So highly successful attack, works really, really well. I've used it a number of times since. The voice cloning element, I believe, was pretty integral to it in order to convince the person. They didn't have that many IT staff members. I don't know about your organization as well. You tend to know the IT people. They float around the office a lot. Everyone knows their voices. So in order to pretend to be them, I couldn't phone up with a completely wrong accent, for example. It just wouldn't really work very well. The tool I use is called 11 Labs, which is probably the most well-known and most respected of the AI voice cloning tools at the moment. I'd like to say it's really complicated. You have to be an amazing hacker to use it. Unfortunately, that'd be a complete lie. It's really simple to use. It costs about $6 a month. It's very self-explanatory. You could teach yourself how to use it in the space of 5 minutes, and you can create a replica of anyone's voice. There are no controls to stop you doing it. You have to tick a box saying, I am allowed to use this voice, but there are no checks that you're allowed to use that voice. So you can clone absolutely anyone you want to, as long as you can get an audio sample of them. And for most senior leaders and most companies, there will be an audio sample out there somewhere, whether it be a YouTube video, a podcast. I often take the audio off of the company's website. Maybe there's a little promo video or something where the CEO or the CFO is speaking. Take that and use that to create the voice clone. So it's quite difficult to defend against, of course, because you're having someone phone you with the real voice, and you can do it with video as well. So you can create a real-time deepfake video at the same time and replace the face and voice in real time. You just need a single image of someone's face. So I could take your image off of social media or the company's website. I can now do a Teams call to you, looking and sounding like you. So we've got these really powerful tools to enable AI fraud to the point where you cannot trust what you're looking at anymore. Like, hopefully most people are aware of that through social media, that a lot of the videos out there on social media nowadays are created with AI video generation tools. So hopefully no one's trusting what they see through social media is true. However, you need to be aware that you can also do it in real time. So I could do it on Teams, I could do it on WhatsApp video calls, and we're starting to see fraud attacks incorporating this technology as well, because it's so convincing. And I could say to you, oh, look out for slightly robotic sounding voices, or in the video, there might be little glitches and things. The problem is that changes on a weekly basis. If I'd been doing this presentation a month and a half ago, I'd have said, the tool can't handle objects passed in front of someone's face for a deepfake video, for example. It kind of glitches out. It can handle that now. It can handle different lighting. So there's sunshine on my face. It'll be able to handle that. So I can't tell you to watch out for these glitches. What I can tell you to do is what's similar with all scams is think about the underlying reason behind what you're being asked to do. So are you being asked to do some sort of money transfer? Are you being asked for your password? Are you being asked for your multi-factor authentication code? Is this unusual? And have you initiated any part of this conversation yourself? So have you checked with the person on a number that you know is definitely theirs? So if I were to receive that call from someone claiming to be from IT support, asking for my multi-factor code, first of all, I would know there is no valid reason for anyone to ever ask me for my 6-digit code or to authenticate through an app. There's no valid reason for even IT staff to do that. So I'd immediately be on my guard. But also what I would do is I'd end the call. I'd then phone back the IT department or the IT staff on a number that I definitely know is theirs. Because you can't be talking to a deep fake if you're using a number that's definitely the person that's supposedly called you. So there's a kind of an element of thinking about what you've been asked to do, being aware of your own emotions. Are you being made to feel pressurized into doing this somehow? Is it particularly urgent, or do you feel particularly scared or excited or whatever else about it? And then taking control of the situation yourself and initiating the call back to the person. If you take control like that, you can't fall for it. So that's my kind of main advice on how to spot these. The technology is only getting better. So as this year we go into 2026, the technology is going to expand and be used in more and more fraud attacks. We're only just starting to see the voice clone incorporated into attacks. I've seen it though, and one of my clients messaged me the other day with a voice note that they'd received supposedly from their CFO, faking that person's voice, asking for a large money transfer to be made to a supplier, but the bank account number was different. So this is massively going to expand. So I want you to be at a stage where you're not believing voices or video. You are taking control of the situation yourself, initiating the call to the person that you trust. And I'll leave my bit there. Hopefully scared you a little bit, and I'll hand back to Hope to introduce Tim a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, it's absolutely fascinating, and what really comes across, and it's come across throughout this, and I'm sure Tim's actually probably going to touch on some of this, so I won't go into it. But there are some really traditional things around fraud, like the urgency, like the pretending to be someone all those kinds of things that we see in frauds, that we've seen in all fraud. CEO fraud isn't new, it's the same, it's just in a different font. It's the same fraud, just with new technology. And it means that the controls sometimes are really easy to pull across, from checking emails through to checking you're actually seeing someone's face.
How's that?
Cool. We can't see your notes.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Right. Sorry about the delay. So thanks very much. hope for that. And Rob, that was fascinating insight into AI voice cloning and so on. Or are you really Rob? Now I'm beginning to wonder, but you know, you've got to trust some people, haven't you? So hopefully Hope's done all the work on that. I'm only kidding. I'm going to talk to you briefly, as Hope said, about protect against AI threats, but also the use of generative AI safely and responsibly in your charity. So without further ado, just a couple of figures. In the last year, and this is according to the Government Cybersecurity Breaches Survey, 30% of all charities in the UK reported having experienced any kind of cybersecurity breach or attack. So that's 61,000 charities. So chances are that your charity was one of those, but you'll know if that's the case or not, or maybe you don't, because a lot of breaches actually go undetected until you start seeing your bank account emptied or your data being shared. Yes, of course, the main outcome is financial loss, but there are a lot of other effects as well, very unpleasant effects on charities and any business, in fact. Loss of employee data, volunteer data, donor data, beneficiary data, or your intellectual property. Data loss is a very, very serious business. And that can also lead to your donors or volunteers or beneficiaries being attacked because the cyber criminals have got their data as well. So that's a real danger. Your business can be interrupted quite seriously. It's not just Marks and Spencers and JLR that have their businesses interrupted by cyber attacks. It's SMEs and charities as well. There's a real chance of litigation by people who have been affected, or even prosecution by, for example, the Information Commissioner's Office. Your supply chain up and down is affected potentially. It's a very emotional time for people in the charity, especially the person that clicks on that link or believe that voice was the real thing. You can just imagine how they feel if they've lost money that's meant to be going to good causes. The reputation of the charity can be severely affected, and so it goes on. So it's not just money losses. Social engineering, as Rob pointed out, is definitely the key, what we call the attack vector for cyber attacks, and that has been substantially increased with the use of AI in terms of effectiveness and how believable it is. But you can do something about this because 95% of all cybersecurity incidents occur due to human error. So it is that person that listens to the cloned voice. It is that person that clicks on the link in the email. So by modifying our behaviors, we can protect ourselves better, however complex that attack may seem. So I just want to run through how an AI-powered phishing email works, because it is quite complex on the face of it. So you just kind of, I think you need to understand how it works so that you know how to tackle it. So AI is a real weapon in the hands of criminals, as we've already established. Attackers who once needed coding skills now outsource technical work to AI. All it needs is some operational instructions, like when you use a prompt, then it can be left to make tactical decisions on its own. Pretty much the same as what Rob was talking about with voice cloning. Criminals can just rent AI tools to launch attacks, and it's a few pounds a month. So it's within everybody's budget if you're that way inclined. So a typical scenario is that you receive an email from your bank, claims to be from your bank, about unusual activity that looks perfect. The email looks perfect. Official logos, your full name, no mistakes, no classic typos or anything like that. Yet clicking the link leads to a cloned site that steals your login details. To appreciate why this is so dangerous, it helps to break down exactly what a modern attack looks like. So the attacker first uses AI to obtain information about you. For a corporate campaign, this could be the department, projects, recent emails, and contacts. AI-driven tools automatically scale LinkedIn, your charity's web pages, public social media, and build a data dossier on each person. Next, the attacker prompts a generative AI model to draft a phishing email. Using natural language prompts, they instruct the AI to write an urgent email from someone in the charity asking to approve a supplier payment, for example, or similar. AI can produce a highly polished text that includes the target's name, relevant project details, and even mimic the tone of leadership. So it could insert a line like, as we discussed during a recent meeting, which will make you sit up and believe it. It will be flawless. It may even avoid common red flags like urgent in the subject line and be more subtle. If the attack involves sending attachments or links, AI plays a role here too. Hackers can use tools to automatically spin up fake login pages or documents. For example, with a single command, AI can recreate an organization's password reset page, complete with branding and form fields. Likewise, a malicious link can be generated and crafted to evade link scanners. Finally, it allows sending thousands or even millions of these emails with slight variations. Just by tweaking the prompts, attackers can automatically create hundreds of unique email variants, like varying subject lines and greetings. And we call this polymorphic phishing. This flood of slightly different messages is very hard for filters to catch because no two emails are exactly the same. And finally, this can take 5 minutes to create the whole attack, whereas it used to take hours or days. Sorry, let's try to move on to the next slide. So how can you spot these? So by following these steps, you can dramatically reduce the risk of falling victim to AI-generated email scams. And Hope, as she said, will be sharing the slides. So please don't bother about writing it all down at the moment. Always confirm the sender's identity by contacting them through a known, trusted channel, not by replying directly to the email, very much as Rob was talking about earlier. AI phishing emails often reference your projects, colleagues, or recent events to seem genuine. Pause to question unexpected or unusual context. Check for subtle changes in email domains or URLs. Hover over links to see where they really point before clicking on them. AI-created emails, as I said a minute ago, are usually grammatically flawless. So watch for inconsistent style, unusual requests, or odd phrasing that would be uncommon from who would have normally sent it to you. And again, look for pressuring immediate action or asking for passwords or payments. As in all transactions and everything you receive, caution and verification are your best defenses. There are tools to support fake AI content detection. We've listed a couple here. Higher Deepfake Detector or Resemble.ai. I'm sure Rob knows of others. We don't recommend one over another, but it's a good idea to have them in your cybersecurity arsenal. If your charity has been attacked, and this is by any kind of cyber attack, whether it's AI generated or not, disconnect devices that you know have been affected before they have an opportunity to spread to other parts of your network. The faster the better. It's not always going to work, but it's worth doing. With ransomware, which I'm sure you've heard of or you may have been affected by, think twice before paying any ransom demands. There's no guarantee that your files will be unlocked, and you could go on a thing called a suckers list that means they've paid once, so they'll pay again. Restore your systems from a trusted backup and rewinding. This demonstrates the importance of making sure you've got rock solid backups on your network. And then when you're satisfied that everything's sorted out, you can reconnect to your network. And very, very importantly, report the loss, especially if you've had financial losses, first to your bank, because there's more chance that the money can be recovered. So bank first, then to report fraud, which Action Fraud was called until last week. So that's a national reporting service. And then you do have your trustees have an obligation to report fraud to the Charity Commission as well, under your charity status. So to protect your data and your IP and everything else, it's very important to avoid when you're using AI yourself to query something or create something, as Hope was talking about at the beginning of this presentation. Avoid putting any confidential information into AI tools, because you don't know how that's going to be repurposed and spewed out again in response to a prompt from somebody else, and that somebody else could be somebody with dishonorable motives. So it's very important that you maintain confidentiality, because AI is great for spreading information. Don't believe everything you read on AI or hear, as Rob said. Moderation, AI moderation can miss harmful content or wrongly block safe content. It can spread misinformation and fake news. You need to be sure you can validate information by checking with other sources that you trust. AI can also pick up negative ideas like hate, unfair opinions, and stereotypes. And it can repeat the same harmful beliefs that cause problems and divide people. And I think in our sector, the charity sector, that's a very, very sensitive and important thing to remember. And use AI as a tool, not a crutch. This isn't about online safety, but this is about supporting productivity and possible revenue generation using AI. But don't use it blindly to do the work for you, because a charity's greatest asset is its people, and that includes their initiative, their creativity, and their experience. And those are things you can't replace by using AI. Sources of advice, an unashamed plug for Get Safe Online. Website's been going since 2006. It's easy to understand, easy to read, and practical to use, and practical to follow the advice. We've got a section for individuals and a section for businesses, which includes charities, and it's updated with our latest awareness campaigns and the latest news. We've got a fantastic tool called Check a Website. If you are asked to click on a link to get some information or to provide some information, you can just type it into the box here, and it will tell you from many sources of intelligence whether that site is likely to be fraudulent or legitimate. And we've also got quite recently a self-help tool center, which includes all kinds of free tools, which are generally publicly available, like how to check if a photo has been scraped off another website, whether the corporate address of somebody that's trying to do business with you is actually above a kebab shop, and so on and so forth. Very useful tools. We're on social media. Those particular channels, we're active on those, so please follow us on those. And just remember, really, not everything is what it seems. Just like a wolf in sheep's clothing, cyber threats can come from the most unexpected sources. So the key takeaway is to approach every interaction, whether it's an email, a link, or a file, with a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't rely on appearances or familiar names. Always double check by reaching out through a separate channel or method. And this can protect you from a lot of costly and expensive mistakes. Pretty much got to the end of my presentation. A lot of problems in charities come from the inside. We call them insider threats, and they can be malicious, or they can be perfectly innocent with people not doing what they're meant to be doing and following the best protocols. And that goes for employees, trustees, or volunteers. It can have a massive impact. So at the recruitment stage is very, very important, which could prevent costly mistakes later on. You need to check people's competence and their honesty. Get CVs and referees actually validated rather than just take them at face value. It's a little more work, but it can save you a lot of heartache. And if fraud is committed by an insider, you could actually be prosecuted by a law that's been out for about a year called the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act. So there is a duty of care on you to recruit people who are honest and competent, or do all you can to recruit. Cybersecurity and responsible use of AI aren't just the domain of the IT department or the senior manager. They're the job of everybody, because everybody's at the front line here. So make sure that these are in place from the outset. Rules and governance, regular education and updates for your staff. Empower people to look out for things and whistleblowing. You've probably got whistleblowing policies. But be consistent in your approach and make sure that security is part of your culture. And that's me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Tim. I'll refer back because we released the charity fraud report earlier in the week, and it's just gone live on the website. But your point around insiders is one we can't ignore, because as much as AI is flashy and we'll talk about it as much as we can, and AI can support the hiring of new people and all these kinds of things, of the frauds that were committed in 2024 into 2025, 38% were committed by insiders. It's the highest percentage when it comes to the relationship between the person, the fraudster, and the charity. Only 23% is committed by someone the charity does not know. So we have this, you are likely to know the person who commits fraud against your charity. And actually things like AI are going to make it easier potentially to hire people who might not have the skills that they said. The other point that I find very interesting is that thing around AI learning from what you put into it. AI is kind of eager to please. A couple of our experts pointed it out. There was a case not that long ago that's in the public interest with an accountancy firm in Australia where the report made up the academic information because they used AI to create the report. It didn't have the correct information, so it made it up. It was the academics who pointed out that there was a problem and they had never written the material that was out there. We have a question in the chat. So are there any systems / processes that could be set up? For example, someone from your IT department giving a password to confirm their identity. Have you guys been seeing the use of like safe words? I've seen them internally in families, but have either of you seen it used in businesses or charities?
Yeah, I have. Some of my clients have started implementing something similar. There are some companies that have sort of cropped up, offering that sort of service where you have some sort of app that you log into and you have to both approve something before you can do the password reset, for example. So yeah, there's quite a lot of that going around. The whole concept of securing that password reset process is becoming really important after the attacks we've seen on Marks and Spencer's, and further verifying people. So yeah, a safe word is certainly one mechanism of doing it.
Yeah. I'll leave a little bit of time so people, if they have any other questions, can add them into the chat. If, as you are experts here, if you were running a charity or working in a charity and you're able to walk away right now and make one change to make your charity a little bit safer from AI, or whilst using AI, I'll give you the freedom to answer the question actually how you want. That kind of like one top tip that you can take away and use as immediately as possible. What would that be? Rob, I'll start with you, even though I've just jumped a question on you that I gave you no warning about.
No worries. I mean, I'm really passionate that your staff are your most important defensive layer. So you can implement all sorts of systems and things like that, but if people bypass them because they've been tricked into doing that, then it's not going to work. So I think training is the most important thing. So getting people to gather together for half an hour, whatever they can spare, not having their phones on and not doing their email at the same time like you do with e-learning solutions, get them on a call, get them in a room and train them on what the latest AI capabilities are. And what both Tim and I touched on is, and what Hope mentioned as well, the fact that these AI enabled attacks are still the same fundamental things. We've just got these extra layers in place. But if people don't know those extra layers exist and how they work, the video, the voice calls, etc., they're not going to be able to protect against them. So teaching people, I think, is the most important thing, I would say.
So you brought up something that this week is kind of based on. It's not the spending thousands on training. It's not the, because for smaller charities, some of those things seem completely out of reach. But actually, it's about starting that conversation, going, have you seen this? Do you know it exists? To Doris, who works on the till or works behind a screen, hey, have you seen this video, this AI video of someone you know? Like just starting that conversation that this is a possibility. When I joined this industry, I got told the acronym PICNIC, problem in chair, not in computer. And I think that really sticks with me, is that we are, like you said, Tim, was it 95% like human error or human enabled?
Yeah, you're both absolutely right. But all I would add is that when I sit down and write an advice page on our website, some people might say, oh, we don't need all the blurb. All we need is the 5 top tips. Do this, don't do this, don't do this. But I've always thought that people won't do something unless they understand why they have to do it. So we do go into some background, and I think AI has absolutely exacerbated that point, because Rob's very detailed explanation of the voice cloning scam, and I think my efforts at trying to explain an email scam, only by seeing how that works can people think, wow, that really is something I have to look out for. And I thought, I could tell that a voice isn't real, or I thought I could tell that there's a typo, or there's a fuzzy logo, but no, that's just gone out the window, hasn't it? So
Yeah.
education and understanding, and however long that takes, just embed it in